she was shot. And so just horrific news. And so what I think, given this, I think what's important today is that, whether you knew her or not, we just be with this all throughout the service. So just if any emotions come up, let's just all, let it be there for the entire 50 minutes. It's more, I think that's the best way to actually honor her and her memory, is to just let yourself be with what is right now. So with that, just take a moment of silence and just send her all our blessings and all our love. So, I read years ago Ramana Maharshi, who was, could we get the back door? Would anybody mind shutting it? Thank you. Who was an enlightened being from India, just, amazing, around the 1950s. He was dying. And his students came to him and said, "You can't go, you can't go, you can't go." And his response to them was, he smiled and said, "Where am I going? I will always be here." And I think it's important to know that Justine she's still here. She's present right now. And yes, in the physical form it has changed, but she is still here. And I think let's just all hold that in our heart throughout the hour. Okay? Just with lots of love. So we have special musicians here today, Michael and Bill, and we're really looking forward to two very original songs by these two. And why don't we start right off with the music, and we'll get it started.
This first tune is a tune I wrote this week. It's brand new. And so very sorry to hear this news this morning. To all of you that knew Justine, I did not, but I can feel the grief here. So this tune has a chorus that I'm going to dedicate to her, because it's about, well, I'll just read the chorus. It's, "I'll lift you up, protect you with my love. The song I sing will carry you upon my wings. I will lead you to the garden of divine reality." So I think that's probably a good place to start. Live alone inside our heads, just our thoughts and memories. Dreamers wandering in the night, seeking out the light. Hungry hearts with imagination, seeking to just touch creation. Gazing up, we reach to find moment of divine reach. Flowers who can act like we, getting we are heaven seen. drops of our tears that save. And when the night comes, oh, the moon will shine. In the darkness we call out your name. Spirit helps to fan the flame. Coming home, 'cause that's the plan. Reach out and take my hand. I'll lift you up and protect you with my love. The song I sing will carry you upon my way. I will lead you to the garden, garden of promises already made. The sun can't help but shine. Take a moment to begin. Now breathe and close your eyes. Whoa, we live alone inside our head. It's like constant memory. Rivers wandering in the night, seeking through the light, reaching up to find moment of divine reality. I'll lift you up and protect you with my love. Song I sing will carry you upon my way. I will lead you to the garden, garden dreamers wandering in the night, seeking out the light. Gazing up, we reach to find a moment of divine reality.
Very powerful. Thank you guys. So, before we start here, why don't we all just get up and just give each other a hug and a welcome. we'll just be with everything today, and that's kind of what the talk is about. And the title of the talk is Enlightenment and the Existential Pointlessness of Landscape Paper, which seems ridiculous now, but it's ridiculous when I wrote it. So it's about transformation. It's about transforming. And my experience with transformation is twofold. One is we can have an experience, an opening, a flash, and see something. And once we see something, once we see it clearly, you can never pretend that you didn't see that thing. You can never pretend that you don't have an expanded awareness. Oliver Wendell Holmes, man's mind stretched to a new dimension. No, it never goes back to its original dimension. So once you have that sight, once you see clearly something, you can never go back. And we all love flashes of enlightenment. This is what books are written about, movies are written about, flashes. What we don't talk about very much is the slow, tedious, day in, day out, take the trash out, shovel the driveway, day in, day out, work that goes into transformation. So, St. Paul was knocked off the donkey and Jesus appeared to him, why are you condemning me? So we love that kind of flash. I was thinking of Moses, and I thought I couldn't get Mel Brooks out of my mind this morning, and he came down with 3 tablets, 5 each. I've got the 15 commandments, and he drops one, and then he goes, oy vey, I've got the 10 commandments, and so pretty funny there. And then there's a story of an eagle, that eaglets, and the eaglet falls out of the nest down to the ground and is subsequently raised by ducks. So for years, this beautiful eagle is walking around, quacking like a duck, walking like a duck, and years later, this eagle is flying overhead and swoops down, grabs him by the scruff of the neck, drags him over to the lake, and says, look, you're an eagle, now act like it. And in that moment, the eagle had a flash of who he really was. He didn't go and do classes for ducks. He didn't write a book on, better quacking. He didn't do anything like that. He just knew who he was and went toward his magnificence and flew. And so, once again, flashes. We love flashes of enlightenment. But what I'd like to talk about today is not very eloquent, but is transformation when it is kind of a pile of manure. I did a lot of work in my backyard last year, and they deliver, piles of manure in the back, and the only way to get through this, unless I had hired somebody, is one shovel at a time, right? And transformation, that's the transformation that is, to me, is much more difficult. It's the one shovel at a time. How do you keep going when it's hard? How do you keep going when you don't see change instantaneously? So a dear friend of mine, Peter, likes to say, we do what we do until we don't. I'll say that again. We do what we do until we don't. And what I think he's saying there is, I can have the awareness that I shouldn't do this thing. I can have the awareness that I should be doing more of these things, but until my actual activity changes, it's just going to be what it's going to be. And it's part of transformation is have the awareness, but also the acceptance that things take time, and that we're all, every single person here, including myself, is a work in progress, and having that self-love and patience. So it just happens over time. So as a kid, I had tremendous judgments of my corporate training father, who would work all week, live in airports, and then come home. And on the weekends, he would spend his weekends taking landscape paper and pinning it down for the chips so weeds wouldn't come up. And I just thought to myself, what an absolute pointless life my dad has here at corporate. So now that I live in airports and I'm a corporate trainer, I last week found myself in the garden putting landscape paper down. I'm like, is this what it's come to? This is right. So I thought, what can I gain from this? And there's a great Neil Young song that says, old man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. So as I kind of contemplated, why has this become an activity that I actually don't mind? It occurred to me that the reference point that I had when I was younger, that keeps you somewhat sane, I've noticed it's moving, all right? So the thing that would have kept me from wearing Bermuda shorts and high knee socks and sandals while mowing the grass, all right? when I was 30, that thing seems to be moving because it doesn't seem that outlandish anymore. Now it's like, oh, people, black socks, sandals, no problem. So what I'm saying here is, as we get older, no, still a no? Still a no, okay. But I think it's about accepting that things do change and we look at things differently. So the theme of what I'm really saying here is, how do we say yes to it all? How do we say yes to, and I don't pretend to have the answer on this one. I just know that all the gurus, and it's 100%, all the gurus from all the different traditions, their whole thing is say yes to it all. Say yes to the madness. Say yes to the love. Say yes to the suffering. Say yes to the loss. Say yes to the joy. Say yes to the enlightenment. Say yes to the death. And I think that's something we can all kind of meditate on today, is what would Justine want from each of us today? How would she want us to be thinking about what has happened through the lens of love, through the lens of acceptance, through the lens of yes? And I would say don't force it. Let it just percolate as something that it can reveal itself to you, to each of us over time. But it's something I don't pretend to fully understand. I just know that from all the readings, the theme from all the gurus, from all the greatest enlightened people ever, is to say yes to the mess, to say yes to this crazy opera that is life. So how do we say yes? How do we practically, on a practical basis, say yes? And I think it comes down to, number one, just do your best. Absolutely, we're each doing our best. Now, it's best to stay humble in life, because what's my best, to a friend looks like, well, that doesn't look like your best. Well, no, it is my best. That's absolutely my best. So we can't judge each other. So it's best to stay humble in life. We all have our cases. We all have our stuff. We all have, now, getting up and speaking, yeah, I can do it. It's not that big a deal, for me. It used to be. But flying has become a big deal to me. Now, for some of you out there, what are you talking about? Flying's no problem. Well, to me, it's starting to look like this long, hot tube that I can't get out of. And I'll be jammed up in the back of the plane with my head next to the window, and this little girl sitting next to me, you're sweating, mister. I'm like, these things go down. I haven't done that yet, but that's my case. That's my fear. That's my stuff to work with. So it's about being humble enough to understand, I have my stuff, you have your stuff, and judging each other is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, all right? Number two would be own it. Own it. It's my stuff. I can't push this off on my parents. I can't push this off on my partner. I can't push this off on my friends. My friends don't call me enough, Janet. So we own it. This is mine. This is what I've created. This is mine. My life is mine, and what I've created with it. And the last part of this, I would say, is acceptance. Is, if we think we're going to get perfection, we're not in this life. Not in this life. And it's about, we're doing the best we can, own it, and then fully let ourselves just accept where we're at. There's a wonderful song by Sarah McLachlan who kind of captures all three of these things perfectly in this song called Adia. She says, Adia, I do believe I failed you. I know I've let you down. Don't you know that I've tried so hard to love you in my way? She did her best. I search myself and everyone to see where we went wrong, because there's no one left to finger. There's no one left to blame. She owns it. There's no one left to talk to, honey, and there ain't no one to buy our innocence, because we are born innocent. Believe me, Adia, we are still innocent. It's easy because we all falter, and does it really matter? All right, accept oneself. All right, so she's got it, all three right there. So that's saying yes to life. So last time I was here, I talked about Sailor Bob, this enlightened character who lives in Australia. He's like 90 years old. And once again, I talked to him. He's a very gruff guy. And he's like, Mike, I don't know what you're talking about. Listen, you're the canvas. Your life's the paint. What do you want to paint? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're the canvas, meaning you are one with eternity. You are one with it all. And this thing where you get caught up with, well, my paint looks this way, and your paint looks, he's like, that's ridiculous. You're the eternal being. You are. And the person sitting next to you is, and the person sitting next to them is. Each of you is the canvas, and it's a simple message. People just don't want to hear it. And after that, it's like, don't have any other questions there, Bob. So the perfect analogy for this that I was coming up with was the Thomas Crown Affair. Anybody seen the old one with Pierce Brosnan? Yeah. And so what he does is he gets these paintings, and he had a dogs playing poker painting painted over a Monet and put back into the museum. And then and then he pulled the alarm, and the water, all started coming down. And what happened was the dogs playing poker picture melted away, and underneath it was a Monet. And the analogy here is we are each person in this room is a priceless Monet. Justine was a priceless Monet, and she still is. Pretending, in our humanhood, pretending to be dogs playing poker. And but underneath it, regardless of your background, your history, your life, you're a perfect Monet, perfect in every way. So I think our job in this life is to wake up and realize our Monet-ness. It's to wake up and realize that this is actually the truth of each of us, regardless of our faults, regardless of our shortcomings, regardless of the things that hold us back. So there's nothing like sailing to help me remember to say yes to it all, because it's kind of in my face all the time saying yes to it all, because there's so many things that can go right and so many things that can go wrong all the time. So I have a friend, Phil, and we were once in Victoria, and we're walking through the town, and in Victoria, Canada, the houses are, you get a tax break if you have a beautiful garden. So everybody has these amazing gardens, every gingerbread cookie houses. And I turned to Phil and I said, that just looks like a big pain in the butt to me. He's like, that's so interesting, Mike, because when I look at your boat, I think the same thing. That looks like a big pain in the butt. So, indeed, all right? So if it's taken me 3 years, notice you haven't heard any sailing stories in 3 years? Well, here you go. So 3 years of blood, sweat, tears, and lots of bills. And my partner, Angelica, has been in the front row for all of this. So finally, last month, we got the boat back in the water in Charleston. And so I'm trying to practice my say yes to it all. So what was the number one thing? It was number one, do your best. I did my best, absolutely. Number two, own it, absolutely. I bought the 30-year-old boat with structural problems. I sent it to South Carolina where they move at a snail's pace. So it took 3 years. So I can't blame anybody. And so I had it down in Charleston for the last 3 years getting work done. So about 4 weeks ago, I departed Charleston with a couple friends, and we had an absolutely blissful sail up to Norfolk, Virginia, and then to New York. And the first 3 days was out in the Gulf Stream, which is like a river that goes across the Atlantic Ocean, and it's the bluest blue I've ever seen. I mean, I just could not stop staring at it. It's the bluest blue I've ever, I sound ridiculous. It's really blue. It is this amazing blue. So we stopped and went swimming, just a surreal experience. And so the next night, we're going along the North Carolina coast into to Norfolk, Virginia. Full moon is out, and we have a gentle following sea, and the air is like massaging. It's so warm, and the boat is just in a perfect rhythm coming up and down. And normally when people are on the 2 a.m., 3 a.m. watch, you're trying to get off watch as fast as you can because you're so tired. And nobody wanted to give up their watch. So, all three of us are out there at 3:30 in the morning because it was just such an amazing moment in life. Yeah, we love those, don't we? All right, so part of transformation is we love that enlightenment. We love that spark. We love that airy feeling that we get, after I love Shavasana in yoga. I'm really good at one position in yoga. Is it Shavasana? Is that the one you realize? That's master at that. And so we love that. But what we don't like necessarily, and that's what I just want to encourage all of us to embrace, is when things go sideways. So we got to Norfolk, Virginia, and it's still the South, and everything's easy and slow. Well, we left the next day, and we got 3 days of stinging rain in the face, 30 knots on the nose, pounding up the coast of Delaware and New Jersey. And we barely slept the entire time, lots of engine problems. I smelled like diesel, just horrible. And by the way, after 3 days on the boat, everything tastes the same. You can spice it all you want. Oatmeal tastes like, souffle. Souffle tastes like, meatloaf. Everything tastes like, oatmeal. And so we get to New York, and it was kind of jarring to go from, how y'all doing, sweetheart, to, what did the guy say? He said, Minnesota, I almost froze my cannolis off there. And so it was like we landed in an episode of The Sopranos, and really nice people, but it was kind of jarring. So once again, how do we say, the thing I want to just encourage all of us to look at is, we don't get to have that big open heart. We don't get to have that big, juicy, I love everybody, without also opening up to, absolute pain, which I can feel in this room today. And you don't get the spontaneous joy and laughter without the shedding deep, deep, deep tears. They go together. And it's saying yes to it all. It's kind of like a bell, the hammer for a bell. I don't get to say, well, I only want the good part. And if you stop the bell, if you stop it here, it stops it here too. You've got to say yes to the whole thing. And that is what it means to be truly alive. That is what it means to be a truly spiritual person, that you are an avenue for all the joy, all the sadness, all of it, everything. And our job is to stay open to it regardless of how uncomfortable, and I know it's uncomfortable. So, just to continue on, to finish, last time I told a story about the Grand Canyon, I didn't finish the story. People came up to me later, so what happened? I'm like, I forgot to finish the story. So let me finish the story so none of people coming up later. So did you finish? So we left, got to New York, to Staten Island, and I kept reading. I read a lot about it because I do actually prepare. It's not as ad hoc as I like to make it sound. And so I'm reading like terrifying stories about going through the New York harbor with freighters and tugboats and crazy currents. And so I canceled with whomever was going to come with me because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't want anybody else in jeopardy. And people being nervous makes me more nervous. So I thought, I got this one. I'll do this one. So I went up, I'm in the Staten Island Great Kills Harbor, and what I didn't know is this was devastated by Sandy, and they still haven't fixed it. So I was wondering when I was coming in, I kept seeing masts sticking out of the water, and so a lot of boats sank in this thing. And so at 3 a.m. to catch the current to go up the East River, I had to leave this harbor to catch and get to the Brooklyn Bridge by 6 a.m. And I'm coming out and I go aground. I'm right in the middle of the channel and I go aground. And I tried again and I go aground. I mean, I hit mud and I can't move. And boy, that's a horrible feeling. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, what do I do? And talk about saying yes to it all. All right, so I'll say yes to this. Okay, so I called the Coast Guard and they said, hey, it's not your imagination, Captain. This harbor's terrible and you're going to have to wait 6 hours for the tide to rise. And I'm like, I'm going to miss my window there. So I thought, I'll try one more thing, and I'll go counterintuitively, I'll go as close to shore as I could in the channel, but as close to shore, so I could actually step out and step onto the sand here, and I inched my way out at 4 a.m., and I got out into the deep water, and I'm like, okay, all right, I can continue on. So I made it to the river, and going up the East River was like the Colorado River, and we were it was up and down, and then I got to the Hell's Gate area where Long Island Sound meets the East River, and it's whirlpools. And fortunately, my boat's really heavy and just went right through it. So it was a very good lesson for me to say continue. Sailing is always a lesson for me to say absolutely yes to it all, because you're going to have those moments. You're going to have those moments where you want to give up, but don't give up. Just keep doing your practices, keep your heart open, and everything will work out, I promise you. All right, so in closing, I'll leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Siddhartha, the Buddha. If you tighten the string too much, it will snap, and if you leave it too slack, it will not play. The path to enlightenment is the middle way. So in other words, do your best to own every aspect of your life. Accept yourself and whatever comes, and just keep your heart as wide open as possible. And that's what it means to be a gift to this world. And each person here is a gift to the world. And we need more open hearts walking around on this planet, especially given this horrible news. So, thank you. Amen.
This week, as I always do, I always kind of say the same thing with you guys, but it's really true. I looked at I've been coming here for about 3 years, something like that, right, with you, Michael? A little over 3 years. So you guys have heard me play, I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 original songs. So, and I thought this week I was feeling very uninspired and unmotivated, couldn't land on anything to sing. I was going to pull out a couple oldies but goodies, and they didn't work. And I just thought, I even texted Michael, said, I'm not sure I'm even good for this one because I just got nothing, man. I got nothing. And
They really want to hear me sing? I don't think so.
so I went back to the drawing board, and I thought, well, like you said, say yes to everything. So I said yes to the fact that I had no clue what to sing you. This was the first song. The other song, Divine Reality, came after this. So that one, once the juices were flowing, that one flowed fairly easily. But this one's called Singing to You, and it's really a song about, I don't really have anything to say to you. That's going to be wisdom and inspirational and clever. So I'm just going to sing to you. Here I am, singing to you. Nothing special to say, but here I am, just singing to you. Wish I had some wisdom to share, or a lyric delightful to hear. But here I am right now, just singing to you. Here I am singing to you. I hope you have some time that you can spend with me. A place you need to go, need to be. Simple as it is, I'll give you all I have to give. So here I am, singing to you. Singing to you. I got no fancy rhymes or clever verses that might reveal some new hidden truth. It's just me and this old piano, and I'm just singing to you. I hope you have some time that you can spend with me. No place you need to go, to be simple as it is, there is no mystery or a clue. So here I am, singing to you. So here I am, just singing to you, just being this old piano, and I'm just singing to you.
really sorry to hear about what's happened here. I know that it's really important today to acknowledge the strength of our spiritual community. I'm going to lead you in a meditation, and this morning I got up, and one of my favorite books for doing meditation for myself is this one. It's Creating Happiness and Health in Moments of Connection by Barbara Fredrickson. And this morning what I opened to was a meditation about loving everyone, about loving our whole community. So if you feel so inclined and can, you might want to move over and be next to people and even hold their hands while we do this meditation. And take some moments to center ourselves, to let your skull reach up to the ceiling. You have your shoulder blades go up and then drop back, so you open up your heart. And just breathe right into the center of your heart. And just remember while you meditate today, while you be together, not to underestimate the power of your love in healing our planet and our communities right now. For each of us individually, for us as a group, for us as a city, for us as a nation, that we're always connected. And so I dedicate this today to Justine. I want you to gently call forth an image in your mind of a whole swath of people. This might be all the people in your part of town or your region of your country. And to do this, you might visualize the view you'd have flying low over a stretch of earth. And although you can't see individual people, you are aware that they are there, underneath nearly every rooftop, carrying out activities of their day, perhaps eating, resting, working, worshiping, or simply moving from one place to another. Take another breath and expand your consciousness, your awareness to encompass this whole community, and you're flying above it, soaring along, witnessing the whole experience. Know that this includes people that you know quite well, and those you know just a bit. And also people that you don't know at all and may never meet. But you can be sure that each and every one, like you, has at one time or another yearned for something more in their life. For happiness, for connection, and for an abiding sense of peace. You can let your awareness of this fundamental similarity between you and all others infuse the space between your heart and each of theirs. You share the same wishes, the same earth. You breathe the same air. And now, with your various connections to all these people in mind, just silently say to yourself the following ancient phrases, or your own version of them, offering these wishes from your heart. May you all feel safe and protected. May you all feel happy and peaceful. May you all feel healthy and strong. And may you all live with ease. Offer each a wish in time with the rise and fall of the slow and full breath you take. Let your goodwill towards all those in your neighborhood, your town, your region infuse and soften your heart. Put your hands directly on your heart and feel the strength, the warmth, and right in the middle of your chest, include all of your loved ones, including Justine and her family, right here in this moment, knowing that this is where she dwells forever with all of us, forever and ever. May we all feel safe. May we all feel happy. May we all have health. And may we all live with ease. It is ever so, and I give grateful thanks. Amen.
So just in closing, let's just close our eyes and just know the truth. Just know the truth that each person here is a portal of heaven. And to be the most magnificent portal of heaven means to open one's heart and say yes to it all, to all the love, to all the joy, to the pain, to the empathy and the compassion. And just as we close here, I'd like you to picture Justine's spirit just soaring and circling around us all and going higher and higher. And just feel her gift that she was to this community and to all those she touched. And just picture her soaring higher and higher. Amen.